Maddie Glad, thanks for sitting in. It's going to be fun. We're also going to go out now live to practice with Chris Brown, our erstwhile, I think I'm using that right, erstwhile man in the field, Chris Brown. Brownie at practice. Chris, how are things going out there? It's a beautiful day out. At least it's a little brisk, but sunny makes everything better, right?
Well, yeah, sunny, but deceptively cool and cold, I would say. We got a breeze going about 10 to 15 out here, pretty constant breeze, so the quarterbacks will have to contest with that, and why not? You're going to be in Cleveland this week, which can't be much better than here, so might as well get ready for the game and probably some conditions, knowing that stadium is literally right on Lake Erie. So if there is a breeze, they'll have to contest with that on Sunday. Might as well get used to some of that here today.
Yeah, and one of the topic of the day, they've got a new player, Corey Liuget, a former first-round draft pick of the San Diego Chargers. He's had some, and Sean McDermott used the exact words, he's had some success in this league. Is there a possibility, or how big is the possibility that he'll be inserted into the rotation?
It wouldn't surprise me if he has a role on Sunday. What is his snap count going to be? I think that's going to be up to a couple of things. Flow of the game, maybe game plan and how they want to use him, because for the majority of his career, guys, he's been a three-technique defensive tackle, which is the same position that Jordan Phillips and Ed Oliver both play. So how do you divvy the assignments up? We know that Jordan Phillips is capable of flipping back and forth between the 3 and the 1. They had Vincent Taylor up last week. He didn't get a lot of work, but when he was on the field, he was filling in for Starr at the 1 technique. They've got 5 defensive tackles now. One of them is going to have to be inactive. I think due to the fact, I think it's a safe assumption to say, knowing Corey Liuget is a proven player in this league, was a former first-round pick, that the odds are good that he's up this week and Vincent Taylor is down as a healthy and active player. I think we all can agree that, and this is no offense to defensive tackles, but there is not a lot of, let's just say, responsibilities where if you're not, you're a veteran player, you know how to play defensive tackle, I guess is what I'm saying. You don't have nearly the responsibilities that a quarterback would have walking in the door here, or even a tight end or a wide receiver. It's not a hugely cerebral position to play. So I think Liuget can come in here and be ready to play on Sunday if they want him on the field.
Liuget has said that he loves playing in a one-tech role in the 4-3 scheme that he got accustomed to with the Raiders. So how do you see him fitting into this scheme right off the bat?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, as I said, most of his career he played 3 technique when he was in San Diego/LA, and then he goes to Oakland and he plays the 1 tech. So where do they want him here? Unfortunately, that wasn't a question that was asked of Coach McDermott, and we're probably not going to see where he's lining up because our media viewing portion of practice will be over before they're lining up. So that's a question we're going to have to ask him in the locker room after practice. Where'd you line up? Where do you prefer lining up? Knowing he's got experience at both spots, I'm encouraged that allows some flexibility for him, and probably an even greater reason why he's probably going to be on the field on Sunday as opposed to Vincent Taylor, who I think is strictly, a 1 technique player.
Yeah, it's interesting, too, because the verbiage is something that, I don't know, you can't say it's universal. I mean, there's got to be some specific calls that may be the same concepts that Liuget has played in his 9 years in the league, but the words are probably completely different. He's going to have to learn a new vocabulary.
Well, right. I think the other thing he'll have the ability to do is just ask the guy next to him, where am I here? And I know a lot of players, even veteran players, when they first come to a scheme with different terminology, will basically use translation to a scheme they are familiar with, at least in the early going. And you have to believe, too, that the only thing that Liuget is going to concern himself with this week coming in the door is knowing the calls for this week's specific game plan. And I would imagine he's going to operate in that fashion to a great degree going forward for the next few weeks until he has a handle on it and maybe can learn more of the pages of the playbook, so to speak. I think right now he's going to go game plan by game plan, master that in each given week, and then if he can expand on that with extra time that he has to study, well, then so be it.
This is definitely a bigger defensive tackle, 6'2", 300 pounds he comes in at. How do you see him being able to help the struggles of the run defense that we've seen so far? I mean, it was fixed last week in the second half, but you got to think he's been brought in here to help with that problem.
Yeah, I would think proven player, know your role, play within it. This isn't his first time around the block trying to fit into a run scheme. So I would anticipate that they believe that he can improve this defense, and Coach McDermott said it at his press conference today. He feels he can improve this defense overall, not just in run defense, because he was asked specifically about Liuget's help in the run front, and he said, well, it's the run front, it's the pass front, it's everything. So whether he's going to be a three-down player, I think, is another story, because I still believe Ed Oliver is probably your best pass-rushing interior defensive lineman, along with Jordan Phillips. Those are probably your top two guys, so I would anticipate that those guys are going to be on the field the most in the pass rush packages. But, yeah, I think they're hoping Liuget can be a better anchor in the run front, and, they'll probably use him in that fashion, whether he's the 3 on early downs playing next to Starr, or whether he's playing the 1 at times and lining up next to Jordan Phillips in the run looks, which was the case last week when we saw Ed Oliver's snaps get curtailed by a significant amount. I think he only played 18 to 20 snaps with 52 plays, I want to say, on defense. So I really anticipate that he's going to be a run front guy to start, and if they feel they can get something out of him rotationally on passing downs, well, then he'll be out there as well.
One of the things that's going to happen this weekend is that Devin Singletary, it looks as though he's kind of emerged as the go-to back of the lead dog in the running game, and they're going to be playing the Cleveland Browns with the 30th ranked run defense in the NFL. Is this maybe a coming out party for him if last week wasn't?
Well, yeah, I think last week was the coming out party, quite frankly. And that was against the 28th ranked run defense, and we saw what he was able to do there. And I think that the Bills are probably going to go with a similar approach this week, and why not? They had very good first down success running the football on their first 2 scoring drives with 8 carries for 52 yards between Devin and Frank Gore. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially when you're going against a run defense that is not worse, at least in terms of the league rankings. They're giving up almost 140 yards on the ground per game. You demonstrated an ability to do that well against a weak run front last week. Try to do it again, as far as I'm concerned. And I think what that does is it really helps Josh Allen in the play-action passing game. So I'm not opposed to them going, with a similar approach. You don't have to go with all the same run plays. You can vary up the personnel grouping if you want, or go with 11, as they did last week. They went 3 wide, 1 back, 1 tight end, almost exclusively on their first 2 scoring drives, and it worked pretty well. They were their own worst enemy, and Josh holding on to the ball too long. The second time they got into the red zone on the second drive and went backwards and had to settle for a field goal, but the run game was absolutely working on first down. So whether Brian Dable wants to do some different window dressing but still run the ball early, I'm all for that.
Hey, speaking of Josh and what he needs to do in this game, of course, there's the conversations of Josh Allen versus Baker Mayfield. So going on the road again, he's 3-0 so far. What does the offense as well as Josh Allen need to do to earn a win against the Browns and to maybe silence some of the, not Josh Allen haters, but the people saying that Josh Allen still hasn't done what he's needed to do so far?
Yeah, I think the media naturally is going to hype up the quarterback matchup with these 2 guys being from the same draft class. Mm-hmm. I think Josh is mature beyond his years, even though he's only 23 years old. And I don't think he's going to get caught up in that. I think he's going to concern himself more with what's going to help us win the football game. And for me, I think ball control can go a long way towards helping this offense, because more importantly, it keeps Cleveland's offense off the field. Not to say that Buffalo's defense can't handle that group, but that's where the bulk of Cleveland's elite talent lies. Yes, Myles Garrett is a concern, got 10 sacks in 8 games. There's other players on the defensive side of the ball that can make plays for the Browns. But I think if the Bills can establish the run, as I said, kind of establish a ball control type style, have some long sustained drives, as they demonstrated they're able to do, I think that keeps Cleveland's offense off the field, reduces their number of opportunities to strike with big plays, which, as much as they have struggled, the fact remains. They've got a 100-catch-a-year guy in Jarvis Landry. They got a 90-catch-a-year guy who can make just about any kind of catch you want to draw up on a chalkboard in Odell Beckham Jr., even with Tre'Davious White covering him. So, and you got, oh, by the way, one of the best rushers in the game right now in Nick Chubb, who's second in the AFC with just over 800 yards rushing. So I think the longer your offense is on the field, the better chance you are to post a victory, provided those drives that you put together result in touchdowns.
Well, one of the things about last week's game against the Washington Redskins, I thought the Bills went conservative a lot, even particularly on those short yardage plays that Brian Daboll was kind of criticized for a lack of creativity. I just don't think the Bills thought that the Redskins were going to score enough points to beat them. But you're telling me, and I guess I get it, that they'll probably do the exact same kind of philosophy this week, stay conservative to stay on the field to keep the Browns offense off the field because they can score enough points to beat this defense. And does that play to the Bills' strengths, or does it just keep the Browns' strength off the field? How do you see that?
Yeah, I mean, I think ball control is the way to go. As I said, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to go heavy personnel. I mean, we've seen Brian Daboll switch it up based on matchups, where he feels the weaknesses and or strengths of the opposing defense lie. So if he feels that spreading them out to go short is the way to go, well, then he'll do that. Just because you want to establish ball control doesn't mean you have to roll 3 tight ends out there and Pat DeMarco in the backfield with whoever your running back is. I think Brian Daboll's demonstrated that he's willing to put any personnel grouping on the field that he believes is going to work best, and then it's on the players to execute that. So execution, I think, has been more the issue of late when plays have not worked for the Bills as opposed to working successfully.
Just here, one last question or two for Chris Brown as he watches practice before they close it off. I want to ask you about Quentin Spain, who was kind of maybe not struggling in the first half of the season, but he was kind of called out a little bit by Sean McDermott before the bye, and he has played extremely well at left guard in the last few games. How do you think this offensive line has played? It was totally revamped, total question mark after the preseason when there was injuries throughout the thing, and now they seem to have found their stride, and they're actually playing pretty well, and Quentin Spain has upped his game.
Yeah, I mean, obviously short yardage issues notwithstanding, I think on the whole they are much improved. Run game, yards per carry average, even pass protection. I think they've had some strong games in which they've set up a nice pocket for Josh on the whole. Obviously, their consistency is an issue, especially when it comes to pre-snap penalties, but they cleaned that up last week to a certain extent. So that's encouraging to see. Hopefully they can keep doing that going forward. Deion Dawkins is going to have his hands full this week with Myles Garrett. Spain, I think, has been one of the better guys. I think he and Feliciano have been pretty steady inside. If, maybe they're not spectacular, but I don't know that they need to be. I think they just need to be steady Eddies, so to speak, and execute there. And I think this is a line that's more mobile than the one that we saw last year. I mean, the ability of Mitch Morse and Feliciano and even Dawkins to get out in front of guys and lead them on screens, swing passes. I mean, the biggest pass play of the game was to Devin Singletary last week, and that's because he had a convoy in front of him. So I think the mobility of this line this year affords Brian Daboll more opportunities to dig a little deeper into his playbook and dial up a few more things and be more varied as an offense overall.
Chris Brown, thanks for being with us out of practice. We'll talk to you again tomorrow. Appreciate it.
You got it, guys.